you are likely leaving so much money on the table because of this one flaw in your approach and in your mindset. Let me explain. Because I've been there before, and when I started my first company, I had no idea how strategy worked. And financials, yeah, throw those out the door. I had no clue how to read those either. And I was just winging it. And I was just relying on my ambition and my grit and just my will to get things through and to build the business. And I made a ton of mistakes. And when I look back, I left so much money on the table. And I don't want this to happen to you. And there's a very high probability that right now, you're leaving so much money on the table. So think about it. Running a business, I know about this because I run my own business. I invest in businesses. I help companies all the time. I love business like people love football, all right? This is my world. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this is because I know how much time entrepreneurs invest in their business. I know how much money they put in their business and effort and energy. And oftentimes, as entrepreneurs, we sacrifice a lot. We sacrifice our health. We sacrifice our relationships with others. We're away from our families. I love my family. I love my kids. My kids are getting older, like by the day. And it seems like things are just accelerating in my life. And when I think about all this stuff, I think about my business and I'm like, if I'm going to work in my business, why wouldn't I try to maximize the value that I'm creating? I love the story that I heard once about Kobe Bryant's wife. Now, Kobe Bryant, he's the late basketball player. He's the rock star on the Lakers, and he passed away. But his wife said, look, Kobe, if you want to play professional basketball, if you want to play in the NBA, that's fine. Like, I have your back. I'll support you. I'll take care of the household. I'll take care of the kids. But if you're going to do that, you better be the best basketball player you can be. Be the best version of yourself. And I think about that all the time. If I'm going to go into business and if I'm going to go into work every single day, if I'm going to grind, I'm going to do the best possible job that I can do. And when I'm working with companies, like one of the first things I do is I show them, okay, here's your value today. And here's your value if you just make some minor tweaks. If we could just solve these constraints right here, and if we can improve different parts of your business, your value is going to be exponentially bigger. So I was working with a company the other week and I was showing them, okay, here's your value today. It's $3 million. I'm just rounding, right? $3 million. But if you can improve these things, and they're not like complicated things, it's just strengthening your offer. It's improving the number of leads, your conversion. And then if you could change your pricing because you strengthen your brand and you increase your perceived value and you enhance the customer experience, and you just do these minor little things in your business, you can increase your EBITDA, you can expand your multiple, and your valuation will go to like 15 million. And his eyes like opened up and he's like, yes, like help me get there. I'm like, all right, let's do this. And that's like the value of following a system to drive greater value in your firm. Like when you follow a system and you have the tools, it becomes very easy. But so many of us, and this was me back in the day, I was just like grinding, just waking up, just working so hard, like killing myself. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm going down this path and I'm making all these sacrifices, which I'm fine doing. But if I'm going to do it, like, why wouldn't I want to maximize value? So let's talk about this concept and let me help you to master strategy and finance to drive greater value in your firm. So first, let's define intrinsic value. So when it comes to valuing a company, what it comes down to is it's the present value of all the cash that the business is expected to generate over its remaining useful life. That's intrinsic value. And it really comes down to free cash flow, right? That's the big driver. Now, there are multiple ways to value a business. You could do it through an income-based approach, like building a discounted cash flow model, forecasting out the future performance of the business, comparing that to historicals, and then extrapolating out cash flow and discounting it back to today's dollars. That's intrinsic value. Or you could do a market or multiples-based approach where you say, okay, these companies are selling at an EBITDA multiple of X times this, or revenue multiple, da-da-da. And you can use that to determine valuation, or you could take an asset-based approach where you look at replacement cost, fair market value of assets, book value, whatever it may be. So that's value. That's what it comes down to. But really, it's just free cash flow. Like if I'm going to invest in something and I'm going to put $1 in, I'm going to want $2 or $3 or $5, depending on the risk and the timing of when I get my money back. To just think about valuation like that. Sure, like revenue can be great for tech companies, or if you're doing a strategic buy, you may buy up a company for their employees or for their patents and you don't care about profit or cash flow. I get that those scenarios exist out there, but for most investors, they're looking at how much cash am I putting in, how much cash am I getting out? So just let's focus on cash flow. That's the biggest thing. So then if we ask ourselves, okay, well, what is strategy then? Strategy, if we just eliminate all the academics of strategy, it's really about determining what is the priority of the business. There are all these competing priorities, all these distractions, all these things coming out of business. You should be this, you should be that, you should do this, you should pursue this, right? You should invest in this product, or you should launch this service, whatever it is. There are all these things that bombard us as business owners. So strategy just helps us to determine, okay, where are we going to compete? How are we going to compete? How are we going to win? And what are the main things we need to focus on to overcome our constraint, right? So when I'm helping companies put in place a strategy, first I identify their strategic problem. That's their constraint. That's what's holding them back from growing. And I'll say, okay, here's your constraint. Let's define some initiatives to help us to advance the strategy and to overcome these constraints. And once we solve this constraint, then another one's going to pop up and we'll hit that constraint. And then another constraint will pop up and we'll solve that constraint. And all we're doing is we're allocating an inordinate amount of resources towards solving one constraint at a time. And that's strategy, right? It's just focusing our priority on the most important thing at a time, right? So don't let strategy get all complicated and robust, and don't try to follow this 100-page slide deck. When I work with companies, I help them to build a strategy blueprint. That strategy blueprint then guides them to set initiatives. They set initiatives, they go execute by setting actions, and then they measure key results and KPIs. That's it. It's pretty simple, right? So in other words, strategy focuses a business on solving its biggest constraint, and it positions the business to win in the marketplace by developing competitive advantages. Now let's move on to finance, because I talk about strategy and finance, combining those together to drive value. Finance is all about understanding the story behind the numbers. I'm not talking about becoming a nerd, okay? I'm talking about learning how to read an income statement, a balance sheet, and a statement of cash flows so you can become proficient with understanding the story behind the numbers. So then you could take that story and then go act. That's the key. So the third or fourth week of every month, I have a unique opportunity to meet with CEOs and the clients that I work with. And we look at the business, we take the financials of the business, we examine the financial performance, we compare that to the strategy and the initiatives they're pursuing and the actions that they're doing on a daily basis. And we're just constantly tweaking. We're saying, okay, are these actions focused on the right constraint? And do we have the financial performance to support the strategy? In other words, if the financial performance of the business is going down, maybe you have the wrong strategy. So that's the process of putting in place a strategy to solve the biggest constraint, using finance and understanding the story behind the numbers and the levers to pull to drive value. And when you combine those things together, guess what? You could take your business from a $3 million valuation that I was talking about before to a $15 million valuation without working any extra hours, right? You're already working a lot of hours. Who wants to work more hours? Instead, it's just about being more strategic and more intentional with your resources, including your time, your money, your energy, your effort, etc. Now, look, if this sounds interesting to you, if you want to learn more about increasing the value of your business, you can hop on a one-on-one strategy call. Just follow the link in the description, or you could go to Coltivar.com. And if you found value in this video, it would mean the world to me if you shared it. All right, that's all I have. And until next time, take care of yourself. Cheers.